What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and our team since 2020 has reached out directly and indirectly to over 300,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And I'm always happy about that, especially for this conversation today. And I am a featured contributor and a member of the advisory board of Indie Soup TV. Indie Soup TV is an independent content creators network that was formed, it was just started about 3-4 months ago, has over 13,000 YouTube subscribers. And I'm a featured contributor. I have about 3 or 4 repeat conversations on there a week. Plus, I'm a member of the advisory board. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And what's going on, everybody? How has the week been? JJ Mars is in the house. What is up, JJ Mars from Colorado? You know, I'm always waiting for my Colorado weather report, so want to know what's going on with that. How has the week been for everybody? Here in Toronto, the weather's been nice. It was a little bit muggy yesterday, but early in the week it was coolish. But the weekend weather is looking really smashing and really, really good. So I'm very excited. I am hoping that Ryan's going to be with us halfway through the conversation today. You know, during the school year, on Fridays, he walks his kiddos to school. So he may or may not be with us today. But hey, we still forward on. What's been going on this week for myself? I've had lots of conversations with African Canadian entrepreneurs. A lot of conversation with them this week, which is a beautiful thing, and assisting them in elevating their business. And also had some team meetings this week, enjoying some of the weather. JG Mars, okay, we get our updated live Colorado weather report. We have warm weather, but thunderstorms later. Yeah, we had some really muggy weather yesterday, and they were saying it's going to rain. And it's about 9:30 last night, I took in the garbage cans because we have garbage pickup every Thursday. So 1 week on a Thursday, we have like yard waste and just regular garbage pickup, and then the other week we have recyclable and food. We have food every week, garbage pickup. Just give me a second. And then on yard, we have yard waste and regular garbage 1 week, and then the next week we'll have recyclable. So about 9:30 last night, I said, "Oh my goodness, I haven't taken in my yard waste empty garbage can." So went out last night. And I go, man, it hasn't rained yet. And I saw in the sky there was lightning flashing, lightning. I say, oh, maybe we're going to get some rain. And then about 2 minutes after I came in, downpour of rain. So that went on. So they're calling for good weather this weekend, which is nice because, you know, summer's going to go by right quick. Fitnets IQ says, morning. Good morning, Fitnets IQ Cam. KSEYL. Oh, I videoed it too, Dr. Vibe. Oh, yes, that was on my mind this morning as I was eating breakfast. I'm going, I wonder if Fitness IQ can. I asked to favor her, so I'm looking forward to receiving that video. That KSEYL RWFQ KOK FV. There you go. Fantastic. So yeah, this is, and lots of people jumping in. Hey, say hello, chime in from wherever you are, say hello. This is Father's Day weekend. So this is going to be a great conversation. We have 2 friends of Dr. Vibes, and also, and Keisha Gray. Good morning. Can't wait from you're hearing from the dad. Say thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. We're looking forward to an epic conversation, especially when these 2 gentlemen. And yes, saying hello from Detroit, D-Town, Detroit City. I hear a lot of things are like a lot of building and things are going on in downtown Detroit. Tell me if I'm right. Actually, the last time I was close to Detroit, I was at a conference last year in Windsor, and there was a big cruise boat in the river. I go, cruise boat? And they said, yeah, there's actually a cruise company that does a cruise through Ontario up to Northern Ontario from Detroit. I go, wow, okay. Fitness IQ Cam says, happy early Father's Day. Thank you so much to dads, fathers, and male caregivers. So that's pretty cool. We got that great going on. And so what's everyone up to this weekend? What are you doing this weekend to celebrate your father? What are you doing? Put it in the chat. Or even a better question, are dads still important? There's a question. Are dads still important in today's society? I'd like to get people's take on that. Whether you're live or watching on replay, I think that'd be a good question. Are dads still important in today's society? Okay, I'm just doing something here. All right, we got some more comments here. Eddie David, Scarborough in the house. What is up, Eddie? Good to see you. And Keisha Gray says, I don't even recognize downtown myself. So much development. Now we just need that same energy in the neighborhoods. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of development going on in downtown Detroit. My question is, are we being left out of the picture? Is it downtown gentrification and leaving people like us out? Next up, Fitness IQ Cam says, Dr. Vibe, I know you are about to stir the pot. Well, how am I doing that, Fitness IQ Cam? I'm innocent. How am I about to stir the pot? I don't get it. I don't get it. What am I doing? No. What do you mean? I'm not stirring the pot. I don't know. I'm innocent. Come on. This is I'm looking at something here. Just give me a second. Okay, next comment. We got another comment in the house. Actually, comments are flying in here. JG Mars, Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre lawsuit dismissed. Not surprised. Yeah. And actually, just before we went live, I just listened to a story about that, and they actually had two of the people that were part of the lawsuit over 100 years old. Not surprised, but disappointed. So thank you, JJ Mars, about talking about that. And I think tomorrow night on Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala, we're going to talk about that. I think that's a really, really important topic. So thank you for bringing that up. Fitness IQ Camp says, actually, I'm proud of my guy friends that are fathers. They're very much involved than before. Okay, I think maybe more involved than before, you want to say. And Keisha Gray says, gentrification is real, but in a city that's 87% Black like Detroit, it's being like we ain't lying down for this. Don't lie down for it. Please and thank you. Do not lie down for it. That's just, yeah, Detroit, no, don't be robbed, right? Don't be robbed. That's what I'm saying. Don't be robbed. So thank you so much for giving the Detroit update. And don't be a stranger either. Really want to hear from you more than less, especially from people in the Detroit city. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So thank you for the update. All right. Anybody else? And I want to know, are dads still important in today's world? Are they still important? I'd love to know. So, lots of people jumping in this one. So yeah, come on in. Tell us when you're chiming in from, and tell us, thoughts about fatherhood and Father's Day, which is coming up on Sunday. We're broadcasting a few days before, so we're having a live conversation in the next few minutes. We're going to have two friends come on. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get these gentlemen on. There's an event happening in Scarborough, which is a part of Toronto tonight. And we're also going to have a deep dive conversation about Black fatherhood. And Keisha Gray, before we go to a break, dads are and always will be a critical part of our lives. They bring a vantage point and nurturing that is critical. I like that. I think that's a great way to go into the break, don't you? I think so. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. And we're going to go deep dive chatting about fatherhood with two great Black fathers. Keep it locked.
And that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harriet Tubman of the mind.
I am.
I feel like I'm one of the Harriet Tubmans of intelligent Black people. Like, I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the rappers get all the attention. Seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant Black people, they'll be all up, getting all the headlines on the Shade Room,
Overly
and
sexualized black
over
folks.
like the twerkers and the just people that don't always represent the best of us. The diversity. Like people like Dr. Vibe. Like everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe.
They
Dr.
really
Vibe
should.
he's trying to do good work for Black people. Dr. Vibe from Toronto. Good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe. Everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. The men who are also doing the same thing. I see Dr. Vibe in here. He's a great brother. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. He's a smart brother in Canada, and we need to follow smart people. So follow Dr. Vibe if you see him in the chat. And Dr. Vibe, say your name in the chat so people can see you. I want you to click on his name, and I want you to go follow him, please, because I want these men and women that are doing the right things to get the support they deserve. Hey, Dr. Vibe, how you doing, brother? Again, like I always do, I got to say everybody should go follow Dr. Vibe. He's got a great show. Dr. Vibe, I know Dr. Vibe's got a kingdom because I see your channel. I see you pouring into that every day. Everybody should follow Dr. Vibe, by the way. Look him up, Dr. Vibe, V-I-B-E. He's a great friend of me and my wife, and I love this guy.
Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Vibe is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent Black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. A lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back. Helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Vibe is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Vibe show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
All right. As always, shout out to Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins for the support they provide Dr. Vibe and many other things behind the scenes. So before we get into our conversation, some house stuff. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, subscribe and follow Dr. Vibe on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram to advertise your business product or service on our show. Please email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And also, if you'd like to join our Discord group where we continue the conversations between conversations, email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right. In light of Father's Day coming up, there is an event that's happening actually this evening in Scarborough, which is part of Toronto. It's called the Father Fair. And the Father Fair is going to be celebrating all things fatherhood. And it's from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the CEE Centre at 75 Thermos Road in Scarborough, Ontario. So make sure you know about that. I'll also put the details in the chat. So I'm going to put that down. But then I'm going to bring up two friends, Paul Osbourne and hopefully Kofi Morris. There is Mr. Morris to join us today, have a little conversation about Black Fatherhood. So good morning, gentlemen. How we doing?
Good morning. Wonderful. I'm doing great. Beautiful day here in the T-Dot and speaking about one of our favorite things, Black men, Black fathers.
Absolutely. Mr. Morris, what go on?
Everything's blessed, family. Give thanks. Good to see you. Good to be on the show today. On this day, both me and Paul are born on a Friday. So, this is a special day always for us. You know what I mean? We call it Kofi Day. If you're born on a Friday in the contradiction, you are a Kofi. So, and me and my sisters tuning in.
I love it. Bish Funny says, Father Fair is going to be fire. All right. Good stuff. So, let's talk about the event this evening first, and then we'll get deeper into Black Fatherhood. So tell us about the event tonight. How did it come about, and some of the highlights we're going to get from it?
For sure. So again, I want to kind of hail up, my partner in along with doing this event, Zenobia, aka Pearl. She wasn't able to make it today, but definitely, it's a collaboration between herself and my company, NSA Community, but it's a continuation of the work. As Dr. Vibe and Kofi knows, for who knows, after last decade or so, we've been doing a lot of work in the community and supporting fathers and families. So this is really just an opportunity to create a space where we can have products and services that cater to Black men, Black fathers, and their families as whole. So the whole family could come out. There'll be lots of things But really, it's about, taking that time to give the flowers, to honor your dads, your uncles, your community fathers, and show that level of support. And, we want to give them, access to things. And also, you know, I often go to a lot of these Black pop-ups and whatnot, and 90% of the time I see that it's women that's there, and 90% of the vendors not are just women. That's okay, but the products don't really cater to ourselves. So we're trying to get some products and services that would cater to ourselves. We're going to have some community agencies come out as well, to kind of share some of the things they do with the family. But yeah, it came about because we were trying to honor ourselves and continue that work.
Nice, really nice. All right, so let's get into it. Let's have our conversation start. So yes, let's make it happen. All right, I like it. Paul is ready. All right. So
I got my camouflage on, Dr. Vibe.
I noticed the
reason
green.
why
I
I'm rocking
noticed the green.
camouflage.
I noticed the green today. I noticed the green. All right, before we go any further, J. Cody Morris says, "Cuz." She said, so this is good stuff. Also,
that's my car all the way in Trinidad. Big up, big up.
There we go. Good stuff. Also, and he also says, Mr. Morris, loved in the house, cuz. All right. Biz Funny says Zenopia. And Barry Gibbs says, good morning, blessings and love. All right. So, and
Barry G.
Okay. All right. Bish Funny says, good morning. Good stuff. So we are already off on fire. So let's talk about it. Can each of you share a bit about your journey into fatherhood?
I'll let my junior brother go first.
I was just about to say, I was about to give it to my elder. You know what I'm saying? So I'm about to give it to my elder brother.
That's what elders can do. Elders can pass it to the junior brother.
All right. Oh my goodness. So I mean, for my journey, there's so many different pieces to it. I have an older daughter who's 23 and a younger daughter who's 10, but I also say was 11 now actually, and I'll also say I have the privilege of playing a fatherhood role to a lot of young people in communities, just as a youth worker, elder in terms of some of the work that I do. Funny enough to say, but a lot of the work that I do in rites of passage. So for me, where I am now, it's almost like I'm reflecting back on certain aspects of actual things I've learned from both the father figures in my life and how those things are playing out now, things that they used to tell me back in the day that I'm now seeing play out. So I'm often in that reflection place, but also really looking at the seeds that I'm planting for the future in regards to my children and ensuring that they have certain things in place for the next steps in their life, right? And so I'm seeing, whether it be relationships, whether it be, schooling, different things of that nature, and kind of in preparation for what the future might bring. And those are the kind of things I would hear from the father figures in my life growing up. Oftentimes is like the future stuff that for me didn't play a role at that point, right? But I'm starting to see how that's playing out. So my journey right now, I'm thankful, to see these young ladies grow up. And again, even the young people in the community. Recently, I was part of something I'll share quickly, which is rites of passage initiation of some young people we've been supporting for the last 7 to 8 months. And to see about 30 of them go through this process, coming in very green and now coming out celebrating their journey for the last 8 months, and seeing those transition points take place in their life and seeing transformation happen right in front of your eyes and actually being able to play an active role in that. So for me, I'm very reflective, right? I'm very much, but also very thankful and joyful to see kind of like the fruit of the labor of the seeds that have been planted manifest in front of my eyes.
There you go. As for myself, in reflection, my fatherhood journey started when I was 13. Not that I was a teen father, but more important for me at the time, I was a teen uncle, right? So I had my eldest brother had my niece. And really from that time, I was always, seeing the value of playing that, father role, along with my brother and my other brothers. I have a lot of brothers. But I saw that importance, like that taking care of another person, being mindful, being patient, and preparing myself one day for my own impending fatherhood journey. Right. So I think that for me was the seed of seeing that, because, as a 13-year-old, I'm like, what is this strange thing, And she came to live with us, and it was just like something different that I hadn't imagined. But definitely I learned so much lessons from, taking care of my nieces and my nephews. And one of the things that we often point to is that there's not a lot of preparation or socialization for young men to become parents one day. We talk about, again, even the toys that we give them, you know, the guns, the action figures, or so and so, versus what we usually give to our daughters, that help to prepare them better for, the possibility of maybe one day becoming a parent, or, taking care of, younger people. So for me, that was kind of where I cut my teeth, and I appreciated that journey. So when I had the privilege of moving into becoming a parent, and that rites of passage of becoming a parent, becoming an adult, I felt comfortable, because seeing a young baby, or um seeing a child go through what they go through, I felt that I was prepared for that next stage in life.
Nice. Want to shout out some of the people that have joined the conversation since we've stepped in. Uh, Eddie David says, Trinidad, where my people? LOL. Roger Dundas, good morning as always to you and the Dundas family. Great to have you here. Opal Inspired, good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day in advance. So we're having a conversation, seeing that this Sunday is Father's Day. We're having a conversation about Black fathers. So please feel free, especially if you're watching this live, add question, comments, etc. For both of you, compare the challenges that you had when you first became a father to the challenges you're having now. Because one of the words that Kofi mentioned was reflection.
Mhm.
So compare Black fatherhood personally to yourself when you first became a father to today's challenges you have as a Black father.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can go first. I think some of the initial piece obviously was a new journey. So, and most of my parenting was focused on taking care of the daily needs, and like you mentioned, walking the children to school, feeding the children, wiping their boo-boos, whatever the case was. So a lot of it was, more hands-on in that particular way. But now, as Kofi mentioned, because we're both practitioners of rites of passage, so moving young people into what we call responsible adolescence or adulthood, it's an African tradition. I find that most of my time, my youngest is 15, my oldest is 22. He'll be, I think, 23 next week. Well, he actually will be 22 next week. But so there's a shift even in them. So most of what I do is guiding them into, or supporting them into becoming, the adults that they are. And that's a different stage, of rites of passage, so for helping them to kind of navigate, now that I'm finished school, or I have, what do I do? Or I have ideas about what I want to do for life. How do I find my passion, my purpose, you know, um, relationships, and it spans, right? So I find most of it is becoming more of a, a mentor, a guide, and a lot of reflection around where was I when I was 15? Where was I when I was 18? You know, where was I when I was, 20, 22? Big shout out to the children, all of them. But I think I do more of that reflective work. And I'm a lot more intentional around, looking at their journey as they're moving into um, their adult lessons. So that's kind of what shifted for me as well. And then I also want to hail up the fact, I think the support circles, both in community and organizations like Ujima Fathering Center, the Fatherhood Project, different stuff like that that exists now that didn't exist when I was younger. I appreciate to have some of these other father organizations that I can support and other fathers I can talk to.
Wow. I'm reflecting as you asked the question, Dr. Vibe, and I think I missed an aspect of your first question, which was talking about the our early
Yeah,
experiences.
I can repeat it for you. So think about the challenges you had when you first became a father.
You know, I got this one, funny enough, but the first question you asked previously, you were talking about our early experiences. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, early experiences of father compared to the challenges you have now with
I
father.
got you.
All
so
right.
so one thing is you know, myself and Paul, funny enough, our children our eldest are the same age. So I was 21 when I became a father, and I'm thinking about the times where I would be going to the park with my daughter, because I decided to work a night job so I could be home in the day with my daughter while my partner was going to school at the time. And I would be at the park, and I'd get all these looks, you know, like this black man, again, early 2000s, at the park with his daughter, and they'd be looking around and be like, "Where's mom?" Like the question was always like, "Where's mom?" Right? And I realized that the societal views about fatherhood was essentially we're kind of just helpers in a sense. So we're not supposed to be the primary caregivers in these circumstances. So my thing was actually acceptance. It was accepting the limitations and the views of people oftentimes at the time, because I couldn't control that. All I could do was show up and be present as a father. Another part of it was the fact that I have girls, was accepting that there's certain things that I can't do. There's roles that I'm not supposed to play per se. My daughter came into puberty and stuff like that. You know, being able to accept the fact that, you know what, there's aspects of this that are not really traditionally, again, my role to play. Though I was educated by a lot of elders in the community, so I would recommend a lot of things, both to mom and to my daughter at the time, things that can help her, because as a holistic health coach, I could make certain recommendations that would support things like, you know, pains during her cycle, you know, suggesting certain herbs and things that I would prepare for her to drink. So I was able to see how I could still play a role. But I know for a lot of fathers, there's this feeling of limitation, because like, what do? I don't know anything about this, but I was empowered in that way. But now, another part of the challenge back then versus now, is accepting that there was a shift that would take place. So the shift that took place with my eldest going into adulthood meant, going on what Brother Paul said, what is the mentorship role? Because now you're shifting more into a mentorship role versus day-to-day provision, right? Cooking meals and all that kind of stuff. Now my daughter is like the chef. She could chef better than me, right? So it's like, okay, I'm not the one that's going to prepare her meal. So what can I do? Okay, well, I can go to the grocery and pick up the stuff. You know, ask her, what do you need? So acknowledging that there is some limitation in terms of what I can do now, but accepting that this is just part of the journey. And I think for a lot of hands-on fathers, that sometimes is the challenge. What do I do now? Now that she's 18, now that he's 18, now that they're 20 or whatever, right? Acknowledging that I had to step back in certain ways to acknowledge for her to kind of tell me what she needed. And sometimes that was just linking up at after work at a coffee shop and having one of her favorite drinks and just laughing and sharing what she was experiencing for the week, you know, in school or at work. So those are some of the things, challenges then versus challenges now.
Right. Thanks so much. Just catching up some comments here. Bish Funny says, very interesting, the advisory stage of fatherhood. Also in the house, Macmillan Group, Ray McMillan. Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day, fellow fathers. Nice. Going to keep the con. So, you know, I told these gentlemen, these friends, I came with a conversation pieces today. So I'm going in. We're going in today, and I know that they can handle it. So let's go. So let me ask you, how do you navigate and address the social stereotypes or misconceptions about Black fathers?
I'll quickly. Paul, you want me to go, or you want to hop in? You know, a couple of things, right? I'm wearing this camouflage for a reason, because, you know, I feel like sometimes we're going to war as fathers, right? We're going to war in sometimes redefining what it looks like and what it's supposed to look like, both to society and to each other. I'll come back to that. How we break some of the stereotypes for me is like literally just showing up. They say that in business and all this stuff, you talk about entrepreneurs, is like 80% is just showing up. It's often said. It's showing up when you're frustrated. It's showing up when you don't feel like, your voice is necessarily being heard because decisions are being made, on behalf of your children, prior to you, being able to actually have a voice in that conversation, because it's looked upon that maybe you won't have a voice, or you don't have a perspective, or you don't have an opinion about these particular things, because you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to kind of go with the flow and the decisions that are being made. So for me, it's like being able to allow your voice to be heard in scenarios where sometimes it's not looked upon that you're supposed to. So we're going into the end of the year. Some parents are going into prom and stuff like that. And, father's not being asked certain questions about whatever it is. It could, and it's not just for the females either. Paul talked about shopping, and we're going to talk about what's happening later on relative to shopping. But often the mothers may be the ones picking out or helping to pick out the shoes or the whatever, and making suggestions or what about the suit that the guy should wear and all of that stuff, and or the dress for the daughter. The father can be involved in that as well, even if he's not the fashion trendy person. Give him perspective, give him that space. So I think showing up and being in those even uncomfortable conversations sometimes is part of our role, and acknowledging us as a parent. And that's how another way I feel that we break the stereotype is being involved, being in those conversations, being in those spaces, being bold enough to say, I'm going to put on my armor, you know what I'm saying, and show up and allow my voice to be heard, whether it's the popular voice or not. Because oftentimes we're not the popular voice. We're the one that's saying the thing that maybe people don't want to hear. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's what needs to be said.
Ashe. And I think just to add to that point, I think is, showing up, but showing out. And I say showing out because, whether it's, in real life, and demonstrating that stereotype of, the uninvolved father, which statistics totally bunk that, in particular, Black fathers were extremely involved, in different ways. So, what they've been putting out, that narrative is not actually accurate. But I think showing out means that maybe using some of their tools, like, having shows like this, where there's a forum where people can listen and say, hey, there's some fathers here that are involved. They're talking about different things that, will uplift fathers. And I thank you for the platform, Dr. Vibe. Other social media pieces, right? Take a picture with your son, your daughter, doing whatever you're doing and putting that out there, because it's not just really just a selfish thing, but it's something that as a community that we need to see, right? We need to embrace, because it's the whole family that is really going to, empower the community, empower the nation, empower the family all together, right? We need everybody. So I think that embracing that, and I think for myself personally, and I think for a lot of, let's say, Black men from the Caribbean, some of the stereotypes never aligned, right? Like Black, if you're a man, you're not supposed to cook. Most Caribbean fathers that I know, and we all can probably say that, they can throw down, right? So for me, I was like, what do you mean men shouldn't cook? My dad sews better than my mom, right? These are things about the messages that we're getting from the, from a Eurocentric perspective of what a man is supposed to be or not supposed to be, really has been a contradiction, that when we go home, we're like, but is my dad really a man? Because he knows how to, make some oxtail and rice and peas, and, mom's asking him to cook.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's part of the journey. But I think, again, because we're now in a time where, it's the information age, we really need to put things out there intentionally, right? So people can see that. So I think that's one of the things we can do. Of course, in life, it's great, but also I think in a broader sense, we need to spread the message and control the medium, right?
All right. You guys are dropping knowledge bombs, so I'm going to give you a short break because the comments are flying in. So the Millen Group says, Great insight, Kofi. The role of the father is ever evolving. Share Knight, good morning, Share Knight. Where's your other half, Share Knight? Good morning, all. Happy Father's Day in advance to all fathers and father figures. We appreciate you. Hayton Morrison, another member of the regular families here. Kofi, I'm so very impressed with your desire and effort to stay involved and engaged in your daughter's life. You're setting an example for all dads to follow. Bish Funny. Changing the culture too. I love that fathers today focus on the children. Fatherhood shouldn't end because the relationship to the mother ends. Fatherhood is for always. And Keisha Gay, our Detroit connection, says, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention 2013 National Health Statistics Report, Black fathers, 70% who live with their children, were most likely to have bathed, dressed, changed, or helped their child with toilet every day compared to their white and Hispanic counterparts. There you go. And she also says it's a myth that Black dads aren't there. Yes, there's a research study, not what you hear on the internet. There are research studies, facts that say Black fathers are very involved. A lot of them, not what the society says, but also research says that the more that especially Black fathers are involved with their children, the better potential outcomes are for the children out there. So keep the comments flowing, family, big time. Next conversation piece for both of you. How do you incorporate and teach cultural heritage and history to your children?
Wow. For me, I think it's about, first, it starts with, the life that you're adopting, right? So, I try to, as best as I can, we know we are, but as best as we can to normalize culture. Because I think when culture becomes such an academic thing, like it's just about reading in a book or whatnot, but normalizing culture. So hosting Kwanzas at my house, going to Afro Fest, my children went to an Afrocentric school, but also being involved in their Caribbean culture, going to Caribana, eating the food, expressing the music, right? And Kofi and I were having a conversation the other day because he hosted an event at one of my spaces where, things are working when young people take it on themselves, right? So, my sons, they DJ, they're playing cultural music, right? Or they're expressing themselves in different ways, even the way they talk and whatnot. So I think that culture has to be alive. And I think the difference, I'm going to emphasize this, when I was coming up, specifically Caribbean culture, even within the home, was kind of seen as a negative. So for example, like you go to school and they say, don't speak Jamaican or don't speak with that Caribbean accent, right? And that was a protective thing from our parents, we understand. But what happened at the same time, there's a devaluation of our culture, right? So our culture was devalued, by society, but also by us, because we're like, okay, if we do that, then there's gonna be a negative outcome. Now I just push and say, yo, say it the way you say it, right? Even in the work I do, I'm like, if you say it in a particular way and you express yourself in that cultural way, run with that, right? So definitely, I try to be an example. My wife as well, the people around us, we definitely surround them a lot with culture. But like I said, I think they've come to a place in their lives where they're not just taking it on, but they're introducing new aspects of it. One thing I love, I'll give my final example. One thing I just love about these young people nowadays is the music. Like the cross, the Pan-African culture, in the music. So example, my children will be listening to Afro beats and know every word, right? In a Nigerian dialect. And I'm like, I don't even, like, they know when to come, and I see that cross and that embracing, and they play music from other cultures within, the Pan-African cycle. So I love that. So yeah, just try to be the example.
100%. And I mean, a lot of what Paul spoke about, I adhere to. I was just thinking about some of the things that used to happen in how I was raised, two Trinidadian parents and early exposure to culture. So, like he said, mentioning food, music, different customs, and also extended family, because there's only so much we can do sometimes within our home. The family, the community plays a significant role in that. So the aunties and the uncles and connecting them to the grands, these are the people oftentimes that become the cultural ambassadors because they have it within them and the way that they show up. And that trickles down to our young people. So I find that that's a significant role as well, as having other people within family, within community that can affirm a lot of what's already happening in the household. So it's not just, mom and dad saying these things or what have you. There's others in the community that are affirming the same ways of being and behaviors. The Saturday programs, if you don't have access, for example, like what Paul said, to like an African-centered school or a cultural-based school program, on a Saturday, you can take them. It's it's what a lot of other cultures do. They have them in the regular schools during the week so that they can acclimatize to the space. But then on the weekend and after school, they expose them to the culture. So we have things like ACHA, African Canadian Heritage Association. I used to bring my daughter there. I used to bring our children there when they were younger. And that program goes from like 5 to 18. So it's like you have that opportunity for them to be exposed to other children that are having similar experiences and having similar exposures. I feel like that's a big piece, is the exposure, the consistency, and like the extended family and community.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Comments keep on coming in. No surprise. What is up? Dr. Tachi's in the house. Good morning, all. I mentioned that she is the driving force behind Indie Soup Media. You need to check that out. IndieSoupMedia.tv. Bish Funny likes the quote, "Culture has to be alive." I really felt that. Great insight. Wayne Harris, what is up? Wayne Harris, good morning. Apologize for the tardiness. Life is lifing. Hey, life is life. We're just happy to have you here. And Eddie David says, communicating in world language is reclaiming of culture. I like that. That's good stuff. Everyone's on fire today. Another conversation piece I want to ask you, gentlemen, is what are some of the key values you aim to instill in your children?
I would say go ahead, Kofi. Go ahead.
Then I was just gonna say, and I'll throw it back to you quickly because it just came as you were saying that, Dr. Vibe, you're asking a question. There's things that we do in our culture that we don't really think about, what we just do them. And it sounds funny, but we have something called home clothes, right? You grew up, you have something called home clothes. You're not supposed to wear that on the road, but also road clothes, outside clothes, you're not supposed to wear in the house, right? It sounds simple, but remember COVID, some of the things that you were saying in COVID, right, as preventative measures, were things we grew up hearing our grandparents say: wash your hand when you come inside, right? Don't put your hand in the pot, all of these kind of things, right? That's how we also pass culture. But in addition, it ties into what you said, the values, right? What are the things, like, you value these things around respect. You pass an elder, you greet them. You can't come in the house and just go upstairs. You have to say good afternoon, good morning, good, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like not forgetting some of those simple things are the things that help us to maintain culture, because I've seen next generation young people walk in house and try to walk upstairs, and grandparents sometimes, I'm gonna talk to y'all for a minute. Sometimes y'all forget how you raised us and you're giving blights that you'd never give us. You know what I mean? But the child just walk by and say, "Oh man, he's okay, man. He said hi to me yesterday." No. We're gonna continue those simple things that help us to maintain respect in the home, because now you're hearing even Caribbean, African, different children talking back to elders, disrespecting parents in ways that we never would have even think. If we thought about it, we would get licks.
They would have been in our head if we thought about it. How did you get in there? I think, in terms of value, the first thing I always tell my children, man, I want them to love each other. You know what I mean? Like, to really love and respect each other, because, you guys are a family, you're a unit. I'm the youngest of 8, but one thing I always reflect when I was coming up, my last name was my first name. Right. And I say that, because I had to represent as an Osbourne. Right. To this day, many people don't know my first name, in the older generation. They're like, that's Osbourne. Right. And what did that mean, as a family? right? I couldn't be out of pocket in the road or talking certain things because it's like, I know you, I know your family, right? And I want to pass that on to my children, the importance of, you know, um, that love, that connection, and not just representing as an individual, right? We want them to be, you know, as a family, as a clan. Also, you know, some of the same thing Kofi says, and I love it. I just sit back and I observe it, is I want them to, you know, really to treat uncles and aunties and elders, you know, with reverence and respect. You know, the other day, shout out to Floydine. She was doing an event at Tropicana, like a birthday celebration, Floydine Charles. And I just observed my children going around, like, you know, and I was laughing too, because there's always a joke that they say about us that, you know, when we go to a community event, it takes us like 50 hours to actually leave the event, you know, and the children are like, Dad, you said we were going to leave, you know, like 50 minutes ago. But when they walked in the place, you know, my sons and my daughter, they greeted, you know, like 20 elders before they even sat down and ate anything. Right. So for me, it's like, okay, you know, that it's coming there. It's like, and it's not just like, hey, how you doing? It was like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. How you been? And showing genuine concern. I'm like, did you guys see what's happening? And at the end of that event, you know, my son was the last to leave. I was waiting on him. Right. But he was building with an elder in the community, right? So I think those are the things I would like to definitely pass down, that just that level, that respect. You know, like I know again, like Kofi says, you know, sometimes we try to move away from certain values because, you know, we think that they don't matter anymore. But I love the fact that, you know, again, my children, you know, treat everybody, you know, in the community like an uncle or an auntie, right? And they address them in that particular way. So yeah, I'd like to see that continue, you know.
Catching up on comments, Eddie David says, Paul Keynes Douglas, Ms. Lou were important ambassadors for language. Bish Funny says, right? Don't come sit on my bed in your house in outside clothes. My dad's indoor clothes are pajamas. That is his indoor clothes. That is his indoor clothes. Fatima Gould says, where are these people? Not in my home. Bish Funny says, my last name was my first name, dropping some gems this morning. Bish Funny also says, this is like Fatherhood Church. Yes. And she also says, this is like Fatherhood Church with you brothers today. Thank you for this, Dr. Vibe. You know, it's a co-creative conversation, not just me, it's all of us together. Barry Gibbs says, hey, Paul, Marcin is tuned in but technically challenged. He wants the gents to know that he is here and appreciates the work. Father to father love. Hayden Morrison says, culture. Any new clothes or shoes had to be worn to church before anywhere else. Was that just my family? We are going in today, family. That is huge. I want to drop something on the screen. I couldn't fit it all in, so it has to be in two lower thirds. When your dad says he doesn't want anything for Father's Day, what he means, what he wants: a phone call, a hug, a meal together, a quote, thanks, Dad, unquote, and quote, I love you, unquote. He wants to know how you are doing because you mean the world to him. So when I read that, gentlemen, what do you feel from that?
Yeah, I would say, you know what, there is a lack of appreciation. You know, when it comes to many times when it comes to fathers, right? And I think we don't all have the same, you know, language of communication, right? For whatever reason, right? So sometimes it's being in tune and being able to read between the lines, right? And then knowing your father, knowing that, you know, that's an appreciation, right? But what I do get from it, you know, overall is, you know, there's not as much hype around Father's Day, you know, around that piece. But I think really at the end of the day, fathers just want to be acknowledged by their children and, you know, their partners and community in the simplest ways. The simplest things matter the most. That's what I'm getting from that quote.
Kofi?
100%. And like when Paul shared this with this week, I asked him to repost it because I'm like, that hit home for me. So there's a lot of it. What he just said, appreciation. I think because fathers and as men were often depicted from the space of being strong, and strong often means like you have it together, like you don't need anything. So as a result, dad is good. So dad don't need a phone call, right? We go call mom and make sure we call mom, but dad might not get the phone call. We like phone call too. We like conversation too. Right? Even the ones that don't talk a lot, we like to hear your voice. We want to hear you, how you're doing. You know, I think that's a piece. A meal together. I don't know no father right now who don't like food. I never really met one that don't like a good meal. You understand?
I'm laughing, and just to interject, I'm laughing because I know that my quote unquote breakfast dinner, my breakfast for Father's Day is going to be a lot different than the Mother's Day one. Are we lucky if I get a slice of toast?
Ouch.
So I'm challenging my niece and nephew, my godchildren and them, all you organize yourself. All right. The man at least more than toast, man. Get a man more than toast.
You are putting them under pressure. When they see the replay in this, they're gonna be what Uncle Kofi
Dr. Vibe, we're gonna need the replay quick, because we're gonna send it to them.
You go.
We're gonna send it to them before Sunday so that there's no excuse. They can't say they saw it late, right?
100%. And Khadija Grace says, I'm so happy to be part of this village. Hey, Uncle Paul and Uncle Kofi. Bish Funny says, oh, that's what a dad wants? That's beautiful. Let me go return these Raptors season tickets.
What? See that? Well, that's a hug. That's a hug.
But don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean we don't want the additional things. So the phone call is nice, right? The meal will be nice. Let's package this thing, right? Let's put together a little package, right? It's not just the phone call and the food. We like other things. I have a little working list. So
a working list. I like that.
Yeah. So we would like our car wash. We like to wash car. We'll wash our car, right? But if we come outside and the car's shiny, we happy with that. You could organize your dad's garage. Maybe he has a lot of stuff and clunky and things that, you could organize a little space for him. You could do his laundry, right? Make him a nice meal on the food tip, right? Make him a nice meal. Pack his lunch. You have a little food that was made last night. Put it in a little bag for him and say his bag is packed. And you can actually do this Monday after Father's Day. You don't have to just wait. You could do it Monday. Guess what? Tuesday too. Wednesday, and then there's 2 more days of the week.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Listen, I'm there. I need to get my working list as well. I'm totally I like that idea of listen. For the brothers out there and the fathers in there, in the comments, put out your list. We want to see your list of what and this also comes back to the event as well, the Father Fair event, right? So again, that focus, it's not the material thing, right? Because again, it's just a symbol of or an expression of appreciation, right? But definitely, I think someone asked this question, and it's like, what do fathers want for Father's Day?
There you
right?
go.
And I think, to be honest with you, sometimes we get stuck because we're like, people would actually give us something for Father's Day? Like, we're not there, right? But if you say, what would you like for Mother's Day? We could rail down the list, for example, right? But yeah, definitely that's a piece. But I will say the other side of things is that even as Black men, in terms of expressing our emotion and opening up and receiving those pieces, traditionally we've been challenged with that, right? So does dad really like a hug? Like, how many of us hugged our dads coming up?
True.
Right? How many of us did these things on the list, right? Because sometimes there wasn't room for that expression. We didn't know that, right? As I know, for example, as my dad has gotten older, he's, and the grandchildren thing, we know already,
Yes.
totally shifted his opening and expression you know, in terms of that, which is a beautiful thing. But I think we also have to be open to receiving, you know, that hug or that good word or that emotional thing for our children, and doing that work to get there, to be ready for that level of expression. And then the other part I'm going to say is, and you alluded to it earlier, Kofi, is that sometimes as the children get older, you know, things shift. You know, when they were younger, they were hugging you up, they were on your feet, they're this, that, on your shoulder, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes as they get older, you know, and I see it, you know, with my 15-year-old, he comes in every morning, he hugs mom, gives mom a kiss before school. I'm lucky if I get a head pat, you know, or a dap or something like that, right? You know what I mean? Or whatever. And I understand it, right? Because he's going through his thing. But, you know, he's not shy to do that for mom, right? But so, you know, it's also acknowledging that, you know, there's a journey that they're going through depending on their age and their stage, but we still appreciate the hug and the good word and all that other thing. Meal, yes, I want the meal. I'm putting it up. I want a Father's Day breakfast, brunch, dinner, even some dessert. I'll take all that.
All right. Got to catch up because there are a pile of comments we got to catch up on. Share Knight says, food is love. Fatima says, LOL, Paul. They will surprise you this year. Fatima says, LOL, Bish funny. And Fatima also goes, a working list? She also says, laundry. I love the list. I love the list. Bish funny shows, but don't organize his records. You ever try to mess with a Black Father's record collection? Facts. Facts. Macmillan Group goes, like the list. Kofi Hayton Morrison goes, if he ever tastes, even if the food tastes bad, Dad will still love and cherish it. Fatima says, my husband wants a meal. Hayden also says, express recognition and appreciation really matters more to a dad than just about anything else. And Fitness IQ says, good to know. So, gentlemen, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and you told me you only had to the top of the hour. So, do you have a little extra time, or do you have to depart?
I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good till 10:30.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Let's keep it going. So, Fitness IQ says, good to know. And also says, what a list. Good to know. There you go. There you go. So
that was the abbreviated version.
We thought we were only going to be here until 10. We could just take that last half an hour and just expand the list. I think
no problem. That was the Cole's notes. I have more right there.
There you go.
Look, and you have to be of a certain age to know about Cole's notes.
Wow.
Not every young dads don't know about Cole.
The man is just putting Cole's notes. That was the chat GPT.
Okay, some more conversation pieces for you.
Can I add something, Dr. Byron? Sorry, before you go, relative to that quote, right? I love you. Thanks, Dad. Sometimes, you know, we may not expect the thanks. There's this thing on Saturday Night Live, I think it was a little excerpt, and it used to say, Lord expectations, if anybody remembers that. Okay, we kind of have a lowered expectation relative to what Paul was saying earlier, and I think that translates to other folks, to our children and to our partners, etc., that says that we don't need these things. But I think sometimes just saying thank you, right? Just saying thank you for the drop off, thank you for the pickup, thank you for, you know, whatever it was. Shooting, even if, you know, a lot of young people use text these days. So even if you forget to say thanks, send that a text. Thanks, Dad. You know, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you did. I appreciate you showing up for my practice, my ball game, my prom, whatever the case may be. It means something to me. It's often said that we're not like the emotional creatures. We're not the ones that tie into emotion. But every dad will feel that. Every dad would feel that, you know, I really appreciate that you did that, and this is what it meant to me. And I think somebody said earlier about the evolving of fathers and of men. And just think of, even if you don't think he would, try it and see what the response is. The I love yous and the how are you doing? Just a random text, question, call. I'm just checking how you doing today, where you up to, etc., etc. You never know how that could take somebody out of a space of maybe not feeling appreciated, fathers not feel, or whatever, not feeling appreciated. It's actually feeling like you do care because you made that gesture.
Dr. Tachi says, that was quite a list. Ajoa says this, and it's long, but I think it's worth a read. My late father was born in 1932 in rural Ghana. He never learned to express vulnerable emotion, and he never learned to comfortably say, quote, I love you, unquote. We thought he never varied. He never cared. Sorry. Yeah. That's typo there. Cared about the Father's Day gifts we gave him throughout our childhood because he would struggle to say, quote, thank you, unquote. But when he died and we were cleaning out his hybrid drawers. Yeah, there's some interesting spelling. We found over 30 years of Father's Day gifts from all of us, labeled with love and categorized.
Ooh.
He loved us wholeheartedly. He just didn't know how to express it.
Ooh.
Wow.
Thank you for that.
Wow.
But listen,
Wow.
You know the sister, the beautiful. That's a touching piece. You know?
That is huge.
Yeah.
Bish Funny says, did anyone see the commercial? We don't have stuff to make pancakes. Hashtag
my favorite. That's one of my favorite commercials.
Okay.
It's a Pepto-Bismol commercial.
Yes, it is. Dr. Chachi says she remembers the stuff from Saturday Night Live you mentioned, Kofi. Fatima says, have an amazing weekend to all fathers. Remember, our fathers are 24/7, 365. Love is welcomed anytime. Bish Funny says, we need to elevate fathers' contributions. We always hear, quote, thank you, mama, for the 9 months you carried me. Also, we need more songs about positive fathering. There you go. And also, too, a lot of times when especially with younger athletes, when a camera puts on them, who do they say hi to first?
Mm-hmm.
Mom. They don't say anything about dad. They don't say anything about dad. All right, so let's continue on. And there's so many conversations. We need to do a part 2. So let's ask about this. How do you balance discipline and nurturing in your fatherhood?
You know, one of the things I love to reflect on, we're doing some work, some sessions here in Toronto called More Than a Haircut. And we would go into barbershops and we would talk to fathers about, parenting issues, their experiences and whatnot. And I always remember this Trini father saying, Daddy's a goon. And what he meant was his role basically was if the kids are, having trouble at home or as soon as he steps through the door, mom would ask him to discipline the children. So his role was just very singular. He was just the person that was heavy on discipline. So therefore, his relationship to his children was kind of strained. Right. And I think, shows like Wait Till Your Father Gets Home or whatnot, that your dad's you're going to be in trouble when your dad gets home. So we don't see ourselves as being the nurturer, just as the disciplinarian. Right. But I would say, my journey of discipline has changed around, from the older ones to the younger ones, because the older ones are like, oh, dad used to be so hard on us. You guys have it so easy, but you learn, and my thing is more like understanding the impact of words versus the physical thing, right? Understanding the collective disappointment, right? Versus, okay, it's just on you, right? So my style of discipline has changed because now it's not just about, that like, shouting or that kind of stuff, but really it's about having that longer conversation, and I always say my younger one, he'll cry before anything is even said because he knows the situation, right? But I'm gonna hail him up because I do have to do a lot less discipline with him because he's learned from his older brothers and sisters. I'm the same way. I learned, from my older brothers and sisters. My wife, she's the youngest as well. She learned from seeing what's happening with older siblings. So I think the discipline's less. In terms of nurturer, I'll say again, like dads with daughters, it's a whole nother level. Kofi's got 2. I've got 1. But your daughter will pull that part out of you, that nurturing part out of you, that sometimes, as, Black men, we're not as comfortable with that, right? Not always, but I'm saying with my own particular journey. And that's something I would definitely say that my daughter has brought out of me, is to be more of a nurturer, and recognizing sometimes I've got to be mindful of my words, because, and how I approach certain things. And she'll call me on it. Right. So definitely I appreciate that. I've become a lot more nurturing as a parent. Of course, it's a journey. We're still kind of balancing where we are, but definitely, my discipline is more about, words, and collective impact. And then my nurturing has been a lot more, as I think, especially as I get older, I think. Kofi?
100%. Yeah. I had to switch up my shirt because before I was in the fatigues, like I told you, I'm ready on the front lines for my father's coming into Father's Day. But I switched it to this mindful parenting shirt, and big up Oliver Levy of the Mindful Parenting Toolkit. I'm sure he's probably been on Dr. Vibes show before, and if not, he may be in the future. But I mention it because there's three things that come to mind. It's like, it's discipline and nurturing. They both speak to love. And I think we think that sometimes discipline is not loving because of how it looks. Because a lot of us knew discipline as licks. A lot of us got licks growing up. A lot of us spanking, whatever name you want to give it. And it was said that it was out of love, but sometimes it didn't feel that way, right? And when would somebody hitting you feel like love, right? That's not love. However, they were doing the best with the tools that they had. I think you could be stern without punishment. And I mean by that is, like, if your child is riding their bike and they're about to fall, right? You may have to abruptly grab the bike, right? And lift them up and say, be careful, etc., right? That's love, right? At the moment, it may feel jolting, right? But that's what was needed in that moment to protect the child. And I think some of the times we forget that because we're coming into sometimes the North American reality and perspective of parenting, which sometimes doesn't have that discipline aspect, and we feel like it's a little soft sometimes as Caribbean parents. But it can be stern without punishment. Steering the child in the right direction, I feel, is acknowledgement of the importance of the discipline, and doing it in a loving way. You can still do it in a loving way. I like what Paul said just now about sometimes how we may speak to our children. It may feel hard on them at times. And I've even had conversations with my dad as an adult sometimes, where after we came off the phone, he called me back and said something different than he said the first time. And he may not have apologized, but him calling me back was an acknowledgement of his own evolution, to be like, maybe he could have said that differently after he thought about it, right? So I think that love also can be sometimes an apology for falling short of how maybe we could have showed up and showed that love. But in the moment, our knee-jerk response was, it felt harsh. And the last thing, actually, one of the things I learned through the Mindful Parenting Toolkit piece was the empowerment of our children. And that if it doesn't feel empowering, oftentimes that's a good marker to know that it's been harsh, right? Because you can discipline and the child walks away feeling empowered simply because you gave them a voice, right? So I acknowledge that you did such and such, this was your intention, but that's not what happened. So I'm here to actually correct your behavior because I'm your parent. That's my job. That can be done in an empowering way as opposed to a belittling way. So that's some of the things that come to mind about discipline and nurture.
Yeah, and I'm just want to add one thing. I think it's also, and I appreciate, I'll say, in my personal situation, is that I do have a wife that will check me in a loving way as well, because we're co-parenting, right? So sometimes it's like, hey, you came off a little harsh, or that was good, or whatever the case is, and it makes sense to have somebody else. It doesn't have to be your partner or a living person, but there, as we talked about, the village and the community, you may want to say, hey, this was a situation, what do you think? Right? Because people expect parents to be perfect. They're not perfect, and children are not perfect, right? So let's give ourselves that grace to to sometimes make those good mistakes that we can correct if we need to correct. And I want to hail up my guy Barry G, original. I do see the comments around teaching as opposed to telling them. I like that piece. for that
Okay.
aspect.
Let's catch up and we'll get to Barry's comment in just a moment. There's some others that came in before it. And Keisha Gray says to express love, it was such a vulnerable thing. Our children could have ripped away from us just like that. We live with that trauma. Hopefully we give grace and we understand where it comes from. Bish Funny says, we just can't expect dads to be the bad guy. Even with non-custodial fathers, moms often only call on when the son starts giving trouble. Fitness IQ says, I'm glad you were able to find that nurturing side. Bish Funny comes back again and says, I have a picture of Paul in a tiara at his daughter's tea party. I will sell to the highest bidder. I need money just to pay for that list. Barry G says, my mindset as a father is constant teaching instead of telling them what to do. Show them what to do, be strong, yet be patient. And Macmillan Group says the mindful toolkit is amazing. Wish I had these resources as a young father. I stumbled through it, learned along the way. Great conversation, Kofi and Paul. Hashtag make it go viral. And Marcin Lane says, yes, finding the quote tone, unquote, within the challenge of balancing act of nurture / discipline was and continues to evolve along my personal adventure of quote maturing, unquote. Very good comments. All right.
Can I add something, Dr. Vibe, to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, one day I was driving with my daughter and my niece to an event, and I was part of the organizing the event, so it was kind of a stressful time, etc. And I was driving and something happened. I don't know if I was on a phone call or something, and my daughter was holding something for me, like some salad or food or something. And I think I hit a bump or something happened, and it slipped out of her hand. And my response at the time was like a stern, like, you know, it was I raised my voice. Let's just put it that way. And I said, you know, you have to be careful, whatever the case may be. And I continued driving to the event. And I got to the event, she was crying. I saw tears in her eyes. And I looked at the face of my niece. And my niece was like looking at me with these eyes, you know, like if she could have licked me down, she would have licked me down. But it's because that's her cousin, right? And I thought of it again, like I could have approached that differently. But in my mind at the time, I justified it because I'm like, doesn't she know we're running late to this event and I'm organizing it and she needs to hold the thing properly, right? It's like my dad's voice in my head playing out at the time. But I had to apologize to her, right? And it's one thing that, again, like I said, I don't think I learned. A lot of us didn't grow up hearing the apology. But now we can almost break that chain by actually saying sorry. Like I didn't mean to do that. And I always say to my daughter, like, I'm working on it. You know, I'm working on it, whatever it is. I may not have it perfect. I may not have it right now, but I'm working on it. Because I think the last thing we want to see is those tears in our children's eyes. But sometimes that's the marker enough to make us wake up and say, you know what, I have to be doing something incorrectly here. There's something I can change.
Yeah. Marcin says, my daughter has indeed and continues to be a guiding light for me as much as I for she. Facts. Beautiful thing. I know because time, I'm going to ask two last conversation pieces because I have a whole bunch, but hopefully one time you can come back when you do a part 2 on this. So first conversation piece. What legacy do you hope to leave your children?
Do you want to go, Kofi, or you want me to go?
You can go.
I think, I mean, that's kind of a deep question. But, you know, I want them to continue like the family legacy, to see that they're part of the story and not just, you know, the story, or I'm not the story alone, right? I would love to get them to embrace the fact that, you know, they're coming from, you know, a large and deep and loving and, you know, wonderful family who's done great things, and for them to go on that journey and find out some things that I don't even know, But that love for learning, that love for knowing who you are as a person, making a positive mark with whatever you do, and knowing that that's enough, right? So I'm not expecting you to, you know, be whatever, the most famous person in the world. But hey, you know, if you're going to do something to make a mark that's positive, that people, you know, generations down the line can say, hey, um, my uncle, auntie, or whoever it is did this thing. But really, I think the family legacy piece to me is the most important, that they're part of that story, and they want to be part of that story. So if I can leave them to have that value, I would love that. In terms of my own personal thing and legacy, um, definitely I would say one of the things is an elevated importance of bringing back rites of passage. And not just from a programming, but in terms of a realistic, they pass that down to their children, and the community sees rites of passage as something that's normal, because it's just something we had lost, or was taken away from us during, the enslavement times. But, when I say rites of passage, so acknowledging, celebrating, ritualizing the different stages of life, from birth, puberty, becoming an adult, becoming an elder, becoming an ancestor. If I could leave a little bit of a mark on that elevated value for rites of passage, I definitely would love that to be part of the legacy.
I love it, and I think one of the things that came to me, and I think a lot of our U.S. counterpart listeners will appreciate this. I want to leave an LLC for my children, and that LLC actually stands for Land, Love, and Connection. So land is physical, right? Like resources. When I'm leaving, in terms of, we recently went back to Trinidad, a group of us, the family, to actually look about that piece, right, around what is happening in terms of the land of the family, what's been passed down for our grandfather. Big up, Susanna Morris, whose his Earth Day would have been this past week. My grandfather, the patriarch of our family on my dad's side. Love, in a sense of what Paul just mentioned. It's one of the things he always did, is he always told the children, 12 of them, that he loved them, and then that actually was passed down through all of our parents. So you'll find that a lot of ours, as a Morris family, our parents would tell us that they love us. So we then started to continue that tradition. So how does that love show up in the families? Is an active way of showing love and showing up for family, and connection, right? Actually coming together as a tradition, right? Whether that's coming and breaking bread, whether that's playing games, whether that's just having a family barbecue. I'd love my children to continue that. So like this Sunday, my daughter, one of the things she does is she makes our mean macaroni pie. Big up Kish, right? Mean macaroni pie. So I said, can you make that macaroni pie on Sunday? So she's definitely going to be doing that. Finding ways to connect as family and continuing these traditions. And there's usually something a role that child plays in the family. So bigging them up to allow them to feel that they can do that here. So whether that's cooking, whether that's games, whether that's bringing people together. When my other daughter, she's really good at bringing people together. We have an event, she brings all of her friends. So it's like being able to tap into their strengths and their gifts, and passing that on. And the last thing is actually learning, maintaining a tradition of learning and passing that on, to say that you've never arrived, regardless if it's a degree or it's an experience, recognizing that you can always learn and build upon a skill that can help you later on in life. So I think a lot of us, we're some of us are jack of all trades because we tried different things in this country. How can we pass on that perspective of you could always learn something new that could be used later on in life? That could be a language, that could be a skill, but that's something that I impart to them.
All right. More comments coming in. N. Kachija Gray says, it is truly an honor to be around long enough to see how both of you phenomenal dads, Paul and Kofi, have grown. Our entire village is better because you're in it. She also says, I got to give a huge shout out to our own East Side Detroit Dob wearing Daddy Bowman. because he is tuned in too. We love you. Bish Funny says,
Bring up Bomani.
okay, I've heard the legacy question asked me, quote, what would your children say after you pass away? Would they say he never had the time for us, or I always knew I'd count on him when I needed him? Good thought. And Khadija Gray says, ooh, LLC, come through, Kofi. Oh, that's beautiful. And actually, well, I'll leave it till the end. One more conversation because I know we're coming up on time for both of you. What do you envision the future of Black fatherhood? Or how do you envision the future of Black fatherhood?
How you want to go? You want me to hop in there?
Go ahead.
Man. So going on that piece around love. We had something called Dad Fest years back, and I'm sure we'll be bringing it back on behalf of some of the work we're doing with Ujima House, Young Potential Fathers, is creating spaces for people to come together and feel that love that we're talking about in the physical space. So whether, again, that's playing games together, whether that's, as I said, breaking bread together, etc. The future of fathering for me means that we create spaces that people feel that love that we want to share actively, and it creates community. It creates the extension of that village. So I think that's one thing. Another thing is being able to acknowledge the camaraderie that we need to maintain as fathers, and sharing our experiences that we can learn from one another, so that it allows us to continue to be growing and elevating and evolving. Because I think one of the things we do well sometimes as men and fathers is holding each other accountable. That we won't allow certain things to happen in front of us often. We'll say something about it as men and as fathers. So being able to maintain that camaraderie and that connection is going to help with the evolution, I think, of fathers as we move forward. And thirdly, I feel like we're going to continue to redefine the stereotypes. And that's going into those uncomfortable spaces where the vulnerability is, where the saying sorry is, where the saying I love you is, where the crying is, whatever it looks like and has to look. I feel like the future of fathering is going to be quite revolutionary and a complete change of what we've seen in the past, of allowing us to go into spaces that are uncomfortable, but showing up and showing out. That's what my brother said.
Ashe. Part of the future of fathering I see is actually a elders circle of fathers. I think, we asked the question, where did you learn, how to parent, how to become a father? Many of us are stumped because we didn't see that example maybe in our home, or it wasn't promoted. So I think that I see with so much folks having these positive conversations, organizations, I'm talking in particular with Toronto here, popping up around supporting father. I see an elder circle of fathers that younger fathers can draw upon, and elder fathers we can exchange and have, lessons. So I see that. But I also see an intentional rites of passage for fathering, and in particular, Black fathering. I think that, as we mentioned before, coming up, in certain cultures, we always, it's kind of like osmosis. You would learn things, or observation. You would learn things, and you wouldn't necessarily always write them down or structure in a particular way. And I'm not saying just to, to really be overly academic, but I think we're at the place in a space now that we need to capture these lessons and have it in a place, in a space that people can draw from. Right. So maybe it's producing, a book. Maybe it's an online piece. Maybe it's an institution that we can go to become better fathers and better Black men. Right? We have to be intentional about, how do we, better ourselves. Like Kofi said before, we're never going to be satisfied with just, getting to this level, right? And doing that work. So I think that I could definitely see a rites of passage specifically for, Black men, Black fathers, to help with our fatherhood journey, and then to help the next generation. So that's kind of some of the future that I see with Black fatherhood.
Well, as we start to wind it down, a few things. First of all, gentlemen, thank you for your time, past, present, and future, because we got a lot of work to do. We've done a lot, but there's a lot of work to do.
For sure.
My biggest concern when it comes to fatherhood, Black father in the Toronto area, I can only speak from Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
there are a number of silos.
For sure. For sure.
And collaboration will get, so this is just my lens from where I sit, because I'm just looking from the outside in, and I know enough. Collaboration will get it, one of the best ways to get it to the next level. That's just
Agreed.
That's me.
100%.
That's just me. And I'm more than willing to help out in the collaboration piece to sort of get it to the next level, because it's very critical, and I'm very concerned about the state of Black fatherhood and Black men. Very concerned.
Yeah.
More than I ever have been, because I've lived long enough, and I can look back, and I think all three of us were part of a sandwich generation. We have our elders ahead of us, and we have the young people. We're in the middle.
Shay.
Right. And the funny thing is, both those communities are looking at us.
That's right.
For help.
Yeah. That's right.
So, as another comment here, so many fathers didn't have fathers. It's inspiring when they lean into community and become the fathers they wish they had themselves. Extended family and community plays an important role. Marson says, yes, I am on the upper per se. As a full-time single father to a 13-year-old daughter, many challenges certainly arise, yet I keep on striving. Thank you for creating such a platform. Absolutely. Barry says, ask our children for feedback. Simply ask them how we can be better fathers. Nothing like real-time understanding directly from our children. Great point, because one of the best ways you can be better as a dad to your kids, ask questions. Simple thing. I'll just put it up on the screen, but I've shared it in all the comment sections. If you're available tonight from 6 to 10 at the CEE Centre, 75 Thermos Road in Scarborough, Ontario, drop by the Father Fair. And I think ideally I'm going to leave with a little special moment here. So even though Father's Day is on Sunday, I had my Father's Day on May 10th. So this is what I'm going to tell you. And actually one more comment, and then someone has a comment, so we close. Marcia says, Paul and I have been brothers from another mother for 5 or 6 years, since 6 years young. Barry Giz is in there as well. Blessed indeed.
Shay.
So my dad on May 10th sent me this text message, and this was one of the great moments of fatherhood I've ever experienced. He said, it's May 10th. Today is my 87th birthday. For the first time in 66 years, I would realize a birthday in the place of my birthday, of my birth. To God be the glory. And at this time, I want to focus on my family and say I am thankful of them, just to mention moments that will really touch my heart.
Shay. So he's back home.
He was home for his 87th birthday, the first time in 66 years.
Wow.
He could celebrate. So to me, that was a Father's Day blessing. It wasn't on Father. That's why Father's Day is every day.
Every day.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. There's about 20 more questions, conversation piece I wanted to get to. I didn't do, but that means when you're available next, because we got to continue with this on as a series when you have time. That's my thought process, and I'm sure the audience would like that also. So I'm putting it in your lap. You know I got this here. If you want to do a series or a monthly series, let's make it happen.
All right.
We coming back. Don't worry.
Coming back.
With your lists, right? More lists.
More lists, bro. More lists.
All right. So, okay. Fantastic. Wow. There's still more comments here. Fitness IQ says beautiful text. Joa says there are many Black women in the city who are open to respectfully supporting the collaborations of celebrating Black Father in Toronto. We love and appreciate you.
Thanks, Queen.
Can't do it without our queens.
I want to give my flowers out to Joa, because my sister called me up yesterday and she said, Paul, with the event today, what do you need? I'm there. I'm showing up early. So I want to again emphasize the importance of that balance and letting people know, it's not just a man conversation or fatherhood, but
it's a family.
A family thing. So
the way our people are going to move ahead comes from the family. If the family is right, we're all going to be right. One last quick thing for both of you. whenever I get a chance to sit down with a Black father, especially the first time, I always say to him this. I say, let's just think about it. You are probably not going to outlive your kids.
Mm.
And hopefully when your kids grow up, your picnic grow up, they're going to live in a house, apartment, condo, hey, even a farm, whatever rocks them. Say they're with their friends and they come into their place, your child's place. You want to hope there's a picture of you there somewhere.
Mm.
And when your child's friends ask, who's that in the picture? What is your child going to say?
I love it.
I leave it with that. Paul Kofi, as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourselves grace. And I'll probably see you for a little bit later on, hopefully. All right. But you got to come back. So we got to talk to come back on that. All right. Be well and keep the faith, brothers.
Give thanks, Dr. Vibe.
All the best. Take care. All right, family. Amazing. Vanessa says, great convo. Much needed for the community. Well, it's an ongoing conversation. Also, Marston says, yes, we entertain many chapters. Well, let's work on it. Sounds like there's the need and the engagement is there with all of you. So thank you so much for that comment. All right, let's shut it down. All right. So a few last things before we get it out of the way here. So first things first, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Pardon me. And hit the notification button. Also, follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms. Please feel free to email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. What else we want to put? You can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro Caribbean Business Network, YouTube and Facebook, and then Ryan Oneil Knight. Hopefully he'll be back on Monday on YouTube and LinkedIn, but his dear partner was in the space today. Good stuff. Also, join the Morning Vibe Discord group. Please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Here are all the places you can get a hold of Ryan, RyanOneilKnight.com, LinkedIn, Ryan Oneil Knight, Instagram at Ryan.Knight99, and then email address workwithme at RyanOneilKnight.com. Myself, here are all the places you can touch base with me digitally. Web, the drvibeshow.com. That's the website. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at the drvibeshow. X/Twitter at drvibeshow. And email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. All right, that's it. So coming up on the weekend, tomorrow night, we have Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala, live at 7 o'clock, wherever you're watching this, where they are both African-American women who try to make sense of the nonsense that's going on in their country, America, because I'm in Canada. I'm north of the border. Sunday, Black Canada Talking will probably be a replay because I'm going to be hanging out with my dad. And on Monday morning, we are scheduled to have someone from the Black Entrepreneur Hub in Ottawa talk about Black entrepreneurship. So that's it. Done deal. As always, this is how we finish off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And if you can't be with your father on Father's Day, whether he's with us or not, do something to hail him up. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good.